Well, all of these methods that you've just learned to force a card are 100% surefire. They will not miss. In fact, when they're properly performed, there's no other card the spectator can select. What I'd like to show you now is the oldest and probably the most difficult force there is. It's a wonderful, wonderful technique. It looks perfectly natural. The problem is, at first, it's not 100% surefire. Don't let that bother you. What you're going to do is practice every time you have a card selected, and eventually you will gain the necessary confidence for success. This is called the classic force. The most subtle force of all is more of a touch and a feeling. It's a psychological force. It's called the classic force. Watch closely. The deck of cards, thoroughly mixed, of course. And what you need to do is to have somebody from the audience come up to help. Well, I'll just use an imaginary volunteer. How about you, sir? Would you mind? Yes, just step up. I'd like you to help me out with a little card mystery. To do this, I need to have you make a selection from the deck. Anyone at all, just reach in there, pull out a card, take a look at it, show it to everybody, and remember what it is. Well, that is the force card. It's nothing more than timing. That's all it is, just timing. There's a couple of psychological points that are very important. First is you'd like to have a little bit of time misdirection between the setup of the force and the actual forcing of the card. I will leave the card facing up on top of the deck. What you do is you can overhand shuffle, you can cut the deck holding a break, and eventually you'd like to make a little step in the pack. So you square up, establishing a little break, little finger break, remember, and you kick the top packet a little bit over to the left so you can place the deck onto the table. This way you can show your hands empty, you can roll up your sleeves, you can get a volunteer from the audience to assist. And all this time, unknown to the audience, you have a step in the deck right where the force card lies. Okay? So you get the spectator up from the deck or up from the audience, you pick up the deck like this and you say, would you mind just reaching in there, taking out any card that you'd like. Here's where the timing comes in. You reestablish your little finger break. When you spread through the cards, you can spread them quickly or slowly, it's entirely up to you, and you can go forward as fast or as slowly as you need to. And what's going to happen is you want to time it out, so by the time the spectator actually reaches for the card, the force card is directly under their middle finger. It's the easiest one for them to take. And another little important point is to open the deck a little bit wider at the force card. So you spread them between your hands, you say just reach in there and take a card. Well, by the time they reach over to the deck, it's the easiest card for them to select. Okay? There are some very important psychological points in establishing a classic force, making it successful. One way is to make it very important that you have no idea what the card is. It doesn't make any difference what card is selected. You just couldn't care less. You shuffle the deck, put the force card in position, say just, yeah, reach in there, take out any one that you'd like. It doesn't matter. Let everybody see what it is. That is the force card. It might be a good idea to turn your head so it's facing in the opposite direction as you make the force. If you do this, it further proves that it doesn't make any difference what card is selected. You say, yeah, just reach in there. I won't look, I promise. Just take out a card, hold it up high, let everybody see what it is. And once again, it's the force card. Another nice psychological point is to not tip in advance that you're going to influence anybody's selection. For example, if you say, I'd like you to pick a card, but before you do, I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to write down the name of the card I believe you will select. That's my prediction. Well, the very fact that you made a prediction pretty much tips the fact that you're going to try to influence somebody to pick the card that matches the prediction. So it's not really a good idea to use the classic force with a classic prediction effect. Give the impression that it doesn't make any difference which one is selected. Another little point is to not say select a card. What you actually do is you say choose a card or take a card. Don't say choose a card. If you say select a card or make a selection of one of the cards or choose a card, the audience is more likely to be specific in which one they take. They say, well, maybe I'll take the card that's third or fourth from the bottom. If all you say is take a card, well, they'll probably just take a card. This was a little touch by Robert Houdin. So there's the force card. I'll leave it face up. You cut it into the middle of the deck. You get your little step. You get somebody to help you. You act like it doesn't make any difference what card is selected. You establish your break from the step and you say, would you mind just reaching in there, take out a card, and give it to him. That's all there is to it. Now, Roberto Giobbi, he had a lovely little touch. And his idea was to make the spectator who's actually going to choose the card or make the selection, put them in an uncomfortable position, slightly uncomfortable, make them a little anxious. What they want to do is they want to help you, they want to do their job right, they don't want to mess anything up. So what they'll do is they don't want to make a mistake. So you say, what I'd like to do is to have somebody pick a card. He suggests you get 2 people from the audience. Sir, would you mind standing here, and would you mind right there? And I need to have somebody pick a card. How about you, sir? Would you mind taking a card? Well, as soon as you ask this person to help you by taking a card, the other person relaxes. Oh, good. Whew. Didn't pick me. That's great. I just get to relax and watch. Then at the last minute, without any warning whatsoever, you say, well, no, wait a minute. Why don't you take one instead? And immediately force the card on that person. That's really good. They were relaxed. They thought they didn't have anything to do, and all of a sudden, they're in the spotlight. They've got to make a selection, so they're going to reach in and grab the first card they can find. They don't want to look foolish. They don't want to mess up your trick, so they'll take the easiest card. Also, it's important to practice the classic force. There are several ways to do that. One way to practice the classic force, first of all, is to practice it all the time. Whether you need to have a card forced or not, force a card. That way you get first-hand experience forcing cards on normal people. Before you get to the point where you're practicing in front of people, you can practice by taking a clothespin. In fact, Martin Lewis told me about this. You get a clothespin, little wooden clothespin, and you tape it onto a table. And you literally walk up to that clothespin every once in a while, and you take a card and you force it right into the jaws, just like that. So that gives you the timing. It gives you the forcing action, whether you go fast or whether you go slow. In fact, that's one thing you should keep in mind. When a spectator is actually making a selection, they don't always go fast, they don't always go slow, but they will be consistent. If somebody's particularly fast, he'll be fast all the way. If somebody's slow, they'll be slow all the way. I have never seen anybody start off fast and then stop and slow down and then go fast again. It's always consistent. So when you say, I'd like you to help me, I'd like you to take a card, as soon as you start to spread the cards between your hands and as soon as you start to approach the spectator, look at their hand and watch how they approach the deck. If they come at a regular speed, you just match that speed, so by the time they get to the deck, the force card will be right in their hands. Okay? Another interesting method for practicing the force is to use a book. Take any book, put it on the table, and you literally force a card into the pages of the book. So here's the force card once again. I'll keep it face up. You go up to the book as if it was a spectator, and you say, Mr. Book, yes, just reach into the deck there and take out a card. And you literally place it right inside. Like I mentioned earlier, it's a good idea to practice in front of live people. Always try to force a card. Whether the trick you're going to do requires a force or not, practice forcing. If they don't take the force card, that's no problem. You just do the trick you were planning on doing. If they do take the force card, then you're starting to get the confidence and you're starting to acquire the timing that is necessary to do the force successfully. A couple of points on the classic force. Rather than spreading the cards very smoothly, some people actually prefer to establish their break and then push off the cards in little clumps or little blocks, 3, 4, 5 at a time. That way they have more control of the timing. By the time they get to the force card, they've taken the cards in their other hand, like this. A nice touch is to not show pleasure if the force is successful. This is actually a very important point. If you say, sir, would you mind just reaching in there, taking out a card, and they take the, oh, good, oh, took the force card. Don't tip. Just act. It doesn't matter what card is selected. Whichever one they take it. On the other hand, do not show displeasure if they don't take the force card. That's just as important. If you're planning on forcing this card, you cut it into the middle, you've got your break, you say, go ahead, reach in there, take a card. Oh, don't let your face show displeasure because they didn't take it. And then, in fact, there's a few outs. If they don't take the right card, what you could do is you can say, oh, no, I saw it. I saw the card. Here, take another one, and then try the force again. Of course, if you try the classic force and you happen to miss, don't worry about it. Just have a backup trick ready, any one of a number of cards. If they take a card other than the force card, glimpse at the bottom card, shuffle it to the top, use it as a key card, do the speller, or do another trick that doesn't require a particular card being forced. Now, I know I've mentioned this before, but I would like to mention it again. It's very important. In fact, it is imperative that the spectator believes that you have absolutely no interest in what card is selected. When I first learned the classic force, I didn't know this. I read in a book, it said, "How to know in advance the name of a selected card." I thought that was great. So I learned it, I read it, I practiced it a few times, I understood the technique. Then I went to my dad and I said, "Hey Dad, guess what? I'm going to know what card you're going to pick before you even pick it. Here, pick a card." And I tried to do the classic force. Well, he obviously didn't take the force card. He knew in advance that I knew what card he was supposed to pick, so he went out of his way to avoid the obvious choice. Well, believe it or not, it wasn't until years later that I realized the psychology is extremely important. You have to convince the audience it doesn't make any difference what card is selected. In fact, that's why a lot of performers do the classic force while turning their head. It gives a very good feeling of indifference. That adds tremendously to the success of the force. How about this as a thought? What if you were to have several different locator cards in the deck and you forced each one to a different spectator and you just happen to know which spectator took which locator card? You're in a very, very good position. Imagine that. Then you can say, put your card back, all the cards are returned, you can shuffle the deck, no control. If somebody else wants to shuffle the deck, no problem. Because each person took a force card, that's a locator card, anytime you'd like, you can find any of the selections in any order that you desire. Now we'd like to talk about the most popular card trick in the world. Now you might have heard about this. It's the one where the magician has somebody pick a card, they look at the card, they put it back in the deck, and the magician finds it. Very popular effect. Of course, there's hundreds of ways to reveal the card, but the point is, a card is lost in the deck, the magician finds it. Now to do this, obviously, the magician has to control the selected card. If you've been paying attention, you've already gone through several methods that you have at your disposal. But right now I'd like to show you several more methods for controlling cards, not only one card, but multiple cards as well. Here we have the Kelly bottom placement, a lovely control. What happens is a card is selected, somebody could just call out the word stop, take a look at the bottom card of the deck, remember what it is, that's your free selection. All you do is you square up the deck like this, and believe it or not, that chosen card is under complete control. The bottom of the deck. This is the Kelly bottom placement. What happens is the same action as the side glide. The spectator calls out stop, you show them the bottom card of the deck. When you assemble the two halves of the deck, what happens is you glide the card back. Under cover of the hand, of course, when you assemble the two packets, the chosen card actually goes to the bottom of the deck, just like this. So from the front, it looks like there's the card, you just assemble the halves, you square up, and that's putting it on the bottom of the deck. Next, I'd like to show you a move by Ed Marlowe, Dai Vernon, and Edward Victor. It's called the tilt. Here's the tilt. Let's say I want to control the Queen of Spades. All I do is I take the Queen of Spades and place it about halfway into the deck like this. And believe it or not, that card is under complete control. It's not exactly on the top, but it's the next best thing, second down from the top. Now this is what happens. You're going to create a break at the inner end with the little finger. Lots of ways to do that. You could push it over and pull it back and get a little finger break, but you want the break to ride across the entire back end like this. Not just a little finger break, but all the way across. So it's at the base of the thumb and the little finger. This is going to create what we call the illusion of depth. You take a chosen card, it looks like it goes into the middle of the deck, but actually you're placing it underneath the top card. Face up, it looks like that. So from the audience's point of view, it should give the illusion of depth. Actually, you're just placing it underneath the break. So you push it in, just like this, all the way. It looks like you're pushing it into the middle of the deck from the back end, and all you have to do is somehow get rid of the top card with a double cut or a slip cut, something like that, and the chosen card is right there. Now there's some lovely little touches on the tilt. This first comes to us from Howard Schwartzman. It's called Tilt Finesse. Here's what Howard Schwartzman came up with. There's the Queen of Spades. It looks like it goes about halfway down into the middle, and you get this nice little group of cards being pushed out from the back. Push those in as you continue to put the card into the back of the deck, and once again it is in the tilt position. What you do here is you get the break for the tilt, just like the standard handling. The difference is when you put it in from the back, you're going to use the corner of the card to push some of these cards. So it looks like it's going in, you're just pushing some of the cards out from the front. That makes it look like you're trying to put it in, but you're having a little trouble. As soon as you push a few from the front, then you lift it up a little bit and place it definitely underneath the top card. You square up from the front as you push this in. That's just a nice little subtlety on the tilt. Here's another little subtlety you can use on the tilt, and you use an overhand shuffle. After the selection was made, you just shuffle through the deck like this, and then you say, remember your card, don't forget what it is. I won't look at it, I promise, but I'll place it into the deck. Here's what you do. The card goes into the middle, apparently, and you say, I don't want to push it in too hard or too fast, because what happens sometimes is I kick it in through the front. Of course, I don't want to do that. I'll push it in nice and neatly like that. Now, it looks like it's hopelessly lost into the deck, but actually you performed the tilt, so now it's second from the top. What you do here is you create a little plunger effect with the overhand shuffle. After the card has been selected, removed from the deck, you overhand shuffle the deck, you in-jog one card, run one card, in-jog another card. So basically what you've done is you've in-jogged two cards with one card in between. That's sort of out-jogged. Now the reason for doing this is this. In-jog, shuffle off. Now you're going to be able to create a little plunger principle. You've got the two in-jogged cards with one card trapped between them. The audience shouldn't see that. That's held at the back of the hand. Now you get a little finger break. You're ready to perform the tilt. You show the card, pretend to place it in the middle of the deck. If you'd like, you can even use the little Howie Schwartzman touch. Then you put it under the top tilted card. Then you explain that if you push it in too hard or too fast, it might come out the front end. Well, that's exactly what you do. You're pushing the selected card so that it's second from the top. At the same time, you push in the two plunger cards, and what that does is it causes one card to come out from the front. That's a very nice little touch. You say, well, I don't want that to happen, so I'm going to square them up nice and neatly, leave the deck on the table. And of course, the card is under complete control. Here's a lovely little thing. You might need to get the card to the top, so you don't want to do the tilt exactly. It's kind of a bold maneuver. It says, look, I'll put it in there about halfway down. And what that does is you actually just place it on the top. It's strictly a bold maneuver. It looks like it goes in the middle. You do this little Howie Schwartzman touch. You tip the hand up just a little bit so the audience can't really see the deck, and you place it right on the top. You can do the same thing to place it on the bottom. Another subtle touch. Say, watch, there's the queen. I'll put it, say, about halfway down into the deck. I'm going to square them up so that even I don't know where it lies. Of course, it's on the bottom of the deck. Exactly the same handling. You do the little Howie Schwartzman touch where you kick some cards forward, and then you take the corner of the card and you place it on the bottom of the deck and push it flush. So it should look like it's going right into the middle, but of course it's completely controlled to the bottom. Now, if you have the right angle conditions, in other words, if you're only performing for a few people in the front, here's a lovely little thing. You take the queen and you cut the deck exactly where you'd like to place it into the pack, say about halfway down. And if you push it in just like this, it's under complete control, second from the top. Now, you've got to get the right angle for this to work. It's very, very easy to get caught from the side, so definitely don't do this if there's anybody watching from the side angles. Like before, you get a break under the top card, like the regular tilt. The only difference is you're going to use the left thumb to lift up. That's why you've got to get the angle right. You want it to lift up so it looks like you're just lifting up the upper half of the deck. But you still have this tilt condition in the back. Now, the timing is important. As the card apparently goes into the deck, you're going to lower that break, or that little pivot like this. So the timing is, here's the card, you lift up, apparently that's where you're going to place the card, but what happens is, as you lower the hand, the card goes right into tilt. And if the timing is right, it should give the illusion of the card going into the center, when actually it's second from the top. Oh, that was a double lift. We'll talk about that later. Let me show you another method of controlling a card. It's pretty much the only variation of the past that I've ever used. It's from Paul Lepal, and it's called a flourish and a pass. We'll have a card selected, say for example that one, and this one you just spread out the cards and say, here, let me have your card back about halfway down. That's a good spot for it. I'll just put the deck on the table and the card is on top. Now the way you do this is you actually, first of all, do the flourish, the spread flourish. This will take some practice. You just sort of bend the cards and you let the cards go off the fingertips. Just practice this over and over again till you get a nice little spread. That's the first part. Second part is, there's the card. You're going to have it replaced into the deck. You just do the spread. You take about half the spread. The selected card is returned. What happens is this. As you close the spread, the left index finger goes underneath the packet and flips it up on its side. That's done under cover of these right-hand cards. I'll try to do it in slow motion. You do this, you flip the packet up, and actually it gets almost palmed into the right hand. Of course, the audience shouldn't see this from the front, and when you square up the deck, you just put that bottom half on the top, and that brings it up to the top position. Now, there was a very nice little delay touch that I saw. It's called the spread pass delay, and this you can do completely surrounded in a very open manner. Once again, let's say the Queen of Spades was the selected card, and you say, let me have it, say about halfway down into the deck, and very openly you say, I'm going to place all these cards on top. That way it's lost. Very openly, right in front of everyone, you did the spread pass with the delay. The action is exactly the same as the ordinary spread pass. The only difference is you pause. You make the spread, the card goes in, I'll leave it face up. Exactly the same way, the index finger goes underneath and it's going to lever the packet on its side, and you're actually going to place it openly into the palm of the right hand, but you display it first. You say, look, I will place all of these cards on top, giving the illusion that it goes into the center of the deck. Once again, face down, it looks like this. Put your card in the middle of the deck, that's great. I'm going to place these cards on top, I won't touch them. And there you have it, the spread pass delay. A very, very lovely method for controlling cards is the Hofzinser spread control. This is beautiful, one of my personal favorites. There's the Queen of Spades, the chosen card. All you're going to do is spread through the deck, say, just tell me when to stop. Right there, terrific. That's where the card goes, face down in the pack. You said you could have put it any place, it doesn't make any difference where. Put the deck down on the table, the chosen card is under complete control on the bottom. Now, to explain this, I think it would be best to have the card reversed. You go through the deck, the spectator calls out stop, you separate the deck at that point. When the card goes in, what happens is this. You're going to push the chosen card over, and you're going to steal it underneath the cards that are spread in the right hand. From underneath, it looks like this. You push the chosen card over, the fingertips of the right hand grab that card and pull it to the right underneath the spread. Now, to help you do that, the left thumb, after it pushes over the selected card, it grabs onto the card that's above the selection. In other words, the lowest card in the right-hand spread. So you push it over like this, put your thumb on top of this card, the fingertips pull this underneath, and you continue to spread out the cards. When you close the deck, that puts the chosen card